Hey everybody, and welcome to another RCT2 review. Today we're looking at Euclid Beach Park by G-Force. This one came out 4 years ago and is a semi-recreation of Euclid Beach Park in Cleveland, Ohio, which operated there from 1895 to 1969. They had a lot of kind of groundbreaking rides at the time, and it was a pretty substantial park. And I think this map does a really nice job at kind of recreating the overall feel and vibe from kind of the palette to some of the more, I don't know, dingier, dirtier areas of the whole thing. So coming off of the kind of highway here, we have our little bus stop for all of the buses at the time, and a covered walkway from here all the way into the park that goes underneath the Thriller here. So this is 1924 PTC coaster that lasted up until the closure of the actual park. Once we get into it, we're going to spin around here to this Midway, which I absolutely love the way that the different sidewalks were done here. So first of all, the fact that it's kind of got this really just dingy, cracked look to it with the different textures, and then also the use of the roadway lines to really make it appear like these were different squares of, say, concrete or whatever that may be. Throughout the whole space, and then the trees just kind of growing through these little planters that don't have any real fencing around them or anything like that. It feels very very wild through the whole area. And then just the little details like the power poles coming through the whole thing. Just the whole thing feels very almost run down, which, you know, Euclid Park was one of the nicest parks of the day back kind of during its heyday, but you know, towards the end it was definitely worn and looking a little bit rough. But let's pick up some of the coasters here, because one thing G-Force does very well is coasters. So Thriller here, great looking station. I love the little pops of color in kind of an otherwise pretty drab environment here. And we've got the lighting kind of throughout the entire thing. So a couple of these hills on the way back, this turn here, through the whole space, and then a little bit of attempted footers as well, which is always a nice touch too. Very kind of angular, steep hills, which feels very much like some of the coasters of the day. Wrapping around this big turnaround right here, really nice little coaster. I love the shaping of all the elements there, and very smooth through the whole thing. Backside here gets a restroom and a picnic grove, another little parking lot here, and then I love this dirt pathway kind of coming up through to the check-in point here. So this is probably an employee entrance, perhaps, or a little ticket sales location right there. Pavilion here on the backside, pretty sizable space. So has some bumper cars in here. So this is the Dodgems from 1928. A lot of history in this park. Next coaster we'll pick up here is the Racer. As the name might imply, it's a racing coaster here. So it's a church racing coaster from 1913. This one also lasted until 1969, the Derby Racer. A nice gray color scheme here. It was a figure 8 layout, so this is probably the best attempt that we can get at a figure 8 without having a kind of a long diagonal here. And then the return run underneath of the lift hill is pretty cool. I do like that idea. Sort of Art Deco type facade also, and then pretty kind of standard structure behind it, which is just fine. Next up, we have a mill chute ride. So this is Over the Falls from 1937. This was sort of a staple ride at parks from this era. PTC tended to offer these as kind of combos with some coasters. So we have this kind of long enclosed tunnel here, where it really was just a kind of big snaking path that was enclosed in a dark tunnel. It was just kind of wood and a roof. Excuse me, and then a lift and a big drop here at the end. Actually, if you go to Lake Winnipesaukee in Georgia, North Georgia, they still have a boat chute ride just like this. There are other ones like at Playland Park in Rye, New York, that don't necessarily have the large drop at the end, but still have this sort of overall feel to the whole thing. So kind of a pretty cool nostalgic type ride. Takes up a fair bit of space, but I really love the way the landscape kind of punctuates in clumps throughout here. G-Force is very well known for his use of the nice manicured mowed lawn, which is kind of funny to me. It almost sets itself off, this very pristine manicured lawn, up against kind of this cracked and crumbling pathway space. Little train here, so this is the miniature railroad from 1920. Kind of see it fitting into the overall space here. Pretty short, pretty simple ride. A couple of little 2x2 flat rides right here. And then on the back side, behind our big building here, we have the turnpike, have the bumper boats right here, this boat ride. And then inside, we've got a couple of restaurants and things like that. I love the cutout here for this tree that was coming up. That was a real thing. And then this mini whip in here, the kitty whip. So big covered pavilion space, lots of good food options, food and beverage type things through the whole colonnade space. More restrooms and gift shops and other things in the backside here as well. Carousel is up here. This is a 1910 PTC. Pretty simple structure over top, but it looks quite nice. And then this gift shop building here, very ornate detailing on the edges here, kind of pretty simple up overhead. This feels very much like a early 1900s theme park. I love just the vibe of the whole thing. Really fits it all. So two things here. We've got the surprise house on this side, so sort of a mirror maze type thing going on. Really cool facade. Love the colors for that. And then the rotor here, which you don't see many of them anymore. I think there's maybe one operating in the U.S. At this point. So rare flat ride indeed at Canopy Lake Park. But there's quite a lot of that sort of thing. Let's stop the rain coming. So that's the park. It's a pretty small, pretty simple park. So this got a silver at the time. I think I probably would have voted it gold. It's definitely on the smaller end, so the content isn't quite there, but the detail is great. Love this sort of unintended racing here with the larger coaster. I always thought it was kind of neat how the Derby Racer here was nestled inside of Thriller as layout, or I guess the Derby Racer existed first and then Thriller came around it. It would have been great to see the flying turn, since that was one of the more famous rides at the park. It was one of the biggest wooden flying turns coasters at the time, wooden bobsled, if you're not familiar. Really kind of a huge ride. So it would have been neat to see this expanded out a little further, but what's here I can really enjoy and can kind of get behind the whole vibe of this. For me, this is one of the parks that really kind of kicked off that the movement for crunch, as we call it in New Element, with these kind of really highly textured details and things like that, with this pathway that's just kind of so overgrown with either landscape pieces or roadway lines or roof textures or any of those sorts of things, just to give it that additional kind of just detail beyond what the standard game pieces offer. So really kind of credit to this park and G-Force for really, for me, kind of kicking that off and really taking it to a good new level in a way that looks good and doesn't look super messy, in my opinion. It's a hard job to make something look kind of intentionally bad like this in a way that doesn't just look actually bad. So for me, this one's a winner, and I really enjoyed this park and enjoyed looking through it. If you'd like to download it for yourself and take a look, I will put the link to the download in the description, and you can take a look and see all the little details for yourself. But that is it for today. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye now.